right, welcome everybody back to episode 4 of PTBO Connects podcast. Today we're joined by one of our own. We've got Joel Potter. Joel is here as half of the team behind what we are now announcing as Y Drive Eats. Y Drive Eats is going to be soft launching mid this month, and then it'll come to everybody March 1st. Joel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
So we're being a little bit selfish. We're using our own platform here to talk about our own service. But I figured it's a good way to get it out. It's a good way to talk about what's a little bit different, what we're going to improve upon. Obviously, Skip, Uber Eats, everybody has a platform out there. They do work well. I am a frequent user. My credit card's not going to know what happens when I stop ordering Skip every night at 10 p.m. It's going to be like, what's this new Y Drive thing? Why are we seeing this bill instead?
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
So I know you've driven for Skip. You've obviously ordered Skip. What do you want to do different with this compared to what you experience working for them?
The biggest thing about Y Drive Eats that's going to be different is that we're concentrating on our local restaurants and our local clients, and just gearing it more towards being customized to Peteborough and what they really need.
Oh, and that works. And we talked about it briefly. It was a pretty quick decision to do it. It's something we've looked into for a couple years now. On the Y Drive side, you just happen to be in the office, bounce some ideas off of each other, and decided let's run with it. I still have the mentality that alcoholics don't own bars, drug addicts don't sell drugs. I probably should not be the one to day-to-day run a food delivery service. So we're going to leave it in your hands. And you've been doing a great job so far. We've got a lot of interest from the local restaurants. We've started hiring drivers. We're testing the app. And what's the first thing you want to do when it gets out there? We're going to have a handful of restaurants. We're going to have the LCBO, the beer store. Everybody's going to be on there. What's the first thing you want to work on as a company to make sure we separate ourselves from the competition?
I think it's two things. One is keeping constant contact with our restaurants directly so that they have somebody to voice concerns to. They have somebody to bounce promotions and ideas off of, and that we're there when they need us to be. Also, drivers, same idea, that we're being responsible for our drivers. They have somebody to talk to if they run into problems. If they need to voice concerns, they're not, going through a giant call center. They're speaking to us and our team.
Exactly. So we're going to have a dispatcher 24/7, which we do with Y Drive anyway. There's always somebody behind the computer screen for the rideshare portion that's always able to fix anything that comes up. Mistakes do happen. Drivers get double booked, stuff like that. This will allow us to fix it right away. But I like your point on dealing with not only the client, but the restaurant directly. Too many times I've had issues with an order that comes and I can't do anything about it besides get a credit. And sometimes if your kid's meal doesn't show up, a credit doesn't help you. You still have a kid to feed. If your straw doesn't show up with your drink, it's still a pain to try and drink a McDonald's cup filled with ice with no straw attached to it. Those are things that we can not only fix in the moment, but then we can also work on making sure they don't continue to happen. And that's the feedback we got originally. I talked to a few restaurant owners going back to 2020, and that was the feedback they all gave, was that they don't want to trust another company, another person with their reputation. If something goes wrong, they want to be the ones to deal with it so that at the end of the day, the customer's happy and reorders from them next week and the week after and keeps them in business as well.
Well, and also, it's not for the restaurant, delivery is only a part of their role, right? Yep. In-house is where restaurants want to be. They want to serve their food to people in their restaurant. Mm. And the reputation is tied to both them in their restaurant as well as their delivery. So if someone else is delivering their food, they want to make sure it's coming to the client the way that they would get it in the restaurant, as close as possible.
Right.
So with our conversations with our drivers, it's always been there's no exceptions with bags. You're carrying food. If you're carrying food, it's carried in your bag until you are putting it where the client has asked you to put it, or taking it from the restaurant.
So you can still do curbside's the wrong word, but you can still do where they put it outside your door, contactless delivery, but that's at the user's request. Otherwise, they ring the doorbell, they wait for the person to come to the door, and that's going to have to happen with liquor delivery anyway. I realize some restaurants deliver some examples of alcoholic beverages, but I think we're the first one in town that's going to be running a true liquor like LCBO and beer stores. So we are liquor licensed. We'll be able to pick up those orders and drop them off. It does mean you're going to have to come to the door and provide ID, though. We're going to need to be able to confirm the person ordering is of age and that they're the one receiving the alcohol. So it's neat that you're going to have those options. I think right now with some of the bigger guys, they just kind of put it where they see fit and take off. I've had them at the bottom of my steps. I've had them at my front door, which is ideal. I've also had the ones that ring your doorbell at 10 o'clock at night while your kid's sleeping.
And the dogs bark immediately.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, they're good for that. So we've got Matt here. We just realized because we moved the cameras around that when I look over at Matt to talk to him, it's going to look like I'm staring directly at the people listening to this on YouTube.
Yeah, kind of.
All right, so that might have to get reevaluated, but it'll work for today. Matt is a frequent user of Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats. Which one are you on right now?
I use Uber Eats because so I have this terrible habit where my credit card's always really close to max.
Yep.
And Skip only takes credit card. Uber Eats takes PayPal as well, so I can take it right out of my bank account.
That's pretty cool, actually.
So my answer to not having enough money to order food online is find another way to pay for food online. And
yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, that's actually an interesting point that we haven't thought about is different payment methods. I know from Y-Drive we are losing some clientele only being able to accept credit card or Visa debit card. It comes back on the risk level. I'd love to be able to do cash delivery, same as cash rides. The issue is then you open the doors up for people to be able to not have the cash. The food's already made, the food's already delivered. What do you do then? Same with the rides. The ride's complete. They suddenly don't have cash. Sometimes it is trying to get water from a stone. You're not going to be able to get anything out of someone if they don't have it.
Also, you're leaving a little bit of risk on your driver in either way that now they're having to carry change.
Yep.
And carry a float. They've
got cash on them. In rideshare, that's definitely a big thing that separates us from cabs is the safety factor. If you don't have cash in the car, it's unlikely you're going to get robbed. And so it definitely, I know there's quite a few drivers that have brought that up in their interview process. And once they heard they don't carry cash on them, it definitely put their mind at ease driving around at 2 o'clock in the morning.
And when I used to drive for Skip the Dishes, when I first started, it was before COVID. Mm-hmm. You had to have a $60 float on you at all times. So if you didn't have $60 in cash because you spent it on groceries that week or whatever, mm-hmm. This is also when groceries were cheap
and available.
Yeah. You had to run to the bank. You had to run to the bank and the gas station and get ready for your shift all at the same time. Yep. And if your first ride or your first delivery was cash. Mm-hmm. And you didn't have cash, you're going to the bank machine before.
We'll be able to compete with that in different ways, though. Again, we haven't locked everything in. We have to test some things in the system, but the ability for gift cards, transferring credit onto your account so that you can put, say, $50 on, and that'll cover you for your next 2 or 3 deliveries. We're hoping to team up with the DBIA in Peteborough again. We've been able to do some amazing things with them. And the next step, of course, is being able to have the Borough card on both Y-Drive and Y-Drive Eats. That's another great way that somebody can not only buy their own gift cards to purchase their own food if they don't have a major credit card or a Visa debit card, but they're also going to be able to gift these things. So employers will be able to give them away. Parents will be able to buy them for their kids when they go out for a Friday night date night and
or
leave
even
their 14-year-old
students from their parents, right? Like if somebody moves away to Trent or Fleming, and I know that from my parents they'd give me grocery card gift cards so I didn't spend it on beer. So the Borough card would work in the same direction, although they'd be able to buy beer from us.
Well, I guess I'm trying to think. Hillary or Terry are definitely going to look at this and be mad at me for not knowing who's on there, but I don't believe there's any that are on the DBIA. Maybe, I don't think Publican House. It's a pretty tight area downtown. Blacks isn't because they're East City.
What about the LCBO in downtown?
But I don't think
I'm
wondering if they are. Like being a government agency, I just don't know if that's an easy thing to penetrate, to get them to start taking the DBIA card, the Borough card. So I have to assume that they aren't, but you'd be able to use it for your restaurants, both in person, ordering through the app, and then obviously getting rides as well. That's a pretty cool gift card to be able to give. And then I think we're going to have that on our marketplace as well for our rewards program. Right. So as you use our service, you'll build up rewards points and be able to purchase those cards, among other things. Apparently, Y-Drive hats. And not just from Y-Drive drivers that want it. I get asked all the time. It's why I'm wearing a toque today, because I'm out of physical hats. People keep taking them. Apparently the Y-Drive hat is a hot commodity. And I'm going to kind of like supreme it, and I'm not going to make any more, so that like the hat you're wearing is now worth $400.
It's a limited thing.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. No, 100%.
I wanted one so bad. I've been hanging around here a lot lately.
Well, it's wasting your time. We don't have any.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed.
We can't get our hands on more right now. Like, back orders have limited hats at this point.
Well, wow. And you don't even have the coat.
No, well, I mean, I also don't drive for Y-Drive.
Right.
I just hang around this office. Yeah.
So he's very proud of his coat. There's only 9 of them in existence, and so he's very proud of his starting 10 edition.
Well, Steve had one a couple episodes ago.
Correct. Yep.
So we've had 2 of the 9 coats on the show.
Yep. You know what's funny actually is it shows how far stretched Y-Drive has become in the first year of business. Yeah. And this wasn't intentional at all. Like Susan has signed up to be a Y-Drive driver since being on the podcast. Brian has done it occasionally. He signed up to be a driver. And obviously Joel and Steve. Every guest we've had on the podcast unintentionally is also a driver for Y-Drive. and that was 100% never even thought about. No. It just worked out that way. But it's such a simple side hustle. Like, it's such a simple side job to do that as long as you own the car, you have the criminal background check ability, like you're going to pass it. And then you have the free time. You're golden. You might as well make an extra $100, $200 here. So yeah, exactly. I realized that the other day. I was like, everybody is a driver. That or I just have no other friends. I only know the people. I only know the people that drive for us.
No friends, just employees.
Yeah, I pay them to like me.
Yeah, I get a paycheck from you every week.
Exactly. So he's on here. So you've had a lot. You've had a lot of discussion. Not with me about the food delivery app. Your wife's been very involved. You've got some friends that are involved. You've got some ideas of your own. What are you hoping when you look back? Obviously, in a year, you want to look back and say, well, we made some money and we got a lot of clients and we got a lot of restaurants and everything's going smooth. But besides that, what's your goal when you look back in a year? What do you want to change in Peterborough?
Well, I'd like the money that we earn and that restaurants own to stay in the community.
Yep.
It is small business at its core, right? Is keeping that money that's earned here and spent here in the community. When you buy from any of those bigger companies, ultimately the money, or at least 20 to 30% of that money is going somewhere else. Either it's going to Silicon Valley to Uber, or it's going to Winnipeg to Skip, or I'm not even sure where any of the other ones are from. But ultimately, if it's spent here, I'm going to turn around and buy stuff as well, right? And we support our families by shopping locally and shopping for some small businesses. And it's a secular environment where if we spend money here, people do better here. Mm-hmm. It increases the value of the businesses in Peteborough.
I hope, and this I haven't really spoken on this. It's just a back of my mind thought that I've had. Throughout the first few episodes, we've talked about things like donaires, which, by the way, shout out to Gertie's. I need to get in for my donaire. They solved my problem. There's also, so since the first episode when I said we needed donaires in town, I don't even think I've just realized they exist. Gertie's will admit that their donaire just got added to the menu, so you're welcome.
We're taking full credit.
Yeah, 100% credit. I doubt they've ever listened to this. But they've added it. Schnitzel House on Lansdowne has a wonderful donaire platter. It's not authentic donaire. It's different. The sauce is different. The meat's slightly different, but it's delicious and so hits the spot. And then apparently there's one in the mall I have yet to try. There's a donaire place inside a Lansdowne place that I've got to try still. But my point is, I hope So we haven't really touched on it. One of the biggest differences we're going to do compared to Skip the Dishes and Uber Eats is we were able to run the numbers, figure out the details, and we're able to get that percentage of the restaurant down to 10%. 10% is a game changer for them. It adds 15% margin back into their operating revenue.
And more.
Exactly. So, I mean, people tend to fluctuate, it sounds like, between 19 and 28%. So it's huge. Restaurants typically, like before the pandemic, only operated with like an 8 to 12% margin on a good day. Those were the good restaurants that were doing well. I hope that we can look back and never get credit for it. And it's not something I'm looking to say, hey, we did that or we're responsible or you're welcome. But I hope that by us offering an alternative that allows people to deliver food, market themselves, because once we have our users moved on to the Y Drive Eats app, they're going through to decide what to have. I hope it helps other restaurants launch. I hope it helps somebody like Susan who has a passion for a type of food, has the ability to cook it well. They can now go out post-pandemic or in the middle of it and start a new restaurant, a new kitchen, whatever they want to do, and make a living at it.
And be successful.
Exactly. And that helps all of us. I mean, there's still a ton of food segments, ideas out there that are not represented in Peterborough.
Or have been lost to the pandemic.
100%.
As a casualty to the pandemic. We've lost 2 on Main Street alone.
I miss Silk Roots. Well, more on Main Street. So you've got Silk Roots, you've got Old Stone, you got Hot Belly Mamas. I realize all 3 examples I gave had other circumstances going on, but I got to imagine without the pandemic, they'd all still be here. They'd all still be up and running. And those were 3 amazing restaurants that food quality, service, all of that had nothing to do with them being gone. It just has to do with the fact you got to still be able to get the food to the person and charge them for it. And without a platform like Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats, you can't do that. And yet, if you choose to use one of those platforms, which all of these restaurants are still going to be on those platforms have a monopoly. We're just hoping that by the time you try their food and you love their food and realize it's also on Y Drive Eats, you're now going to choose to order it your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th time through there so that you know the restaurant is making a fair cut of their sale. The drivers are going to make a little bit more. And I can't say as of yet that you as a customer are going to spend less, but you're not going to spend more.
You're definitely not going to spend more.
Exactly. So I don't think we have room to get it below the typical delivery fee pricing and still be fair to the drivers.
But it does give the restaurants room to fluctuate, right? Because if they're marking up their prices for some of the other platforms just to cover their costs, they may have some room to play with to, do specials, do promos, those types of things with us because they know that they're going to spend less.
100%. It also opens up to other markets that aren't represented on Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, and all those alternatives. So as we mentioned, LCBO, beer store. I'd also like to get going on things like Public and House, Black's, Bob Cajun, Haven, all of those amazing places that can sell direct to consumer as well. Sorry if I missed anybody there. And the other ones that are interesting are, can we talk about Lisa and Couture Candy?
Yeah.
So I didn't know it was a secret. You were going to announce it as a big
now.
reveal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We are now.
Or bleep that out. We're going to talk about it. Nobody's going to know what place we're talking about because we'll just bleep out the name.
Yeah.
But something like that is a really cool idea to get on there. I am guilty of ordering Cineplex and Yogan Frus and those kinds of things on Skip the Dishes late at night because I'm watching a movie. I have a little theater room I built at home. To be able to order a box of sour candy, to be able to order, my wife was eating Dunkaroos last night. Who eats Dunkaroos anymore?
Exactly. And like by adding Couture Candy as the candy store for our platform, it's no more work for Lisa. Mm-hmm. When Lisa's building in the shop late at night, she's just going to turn the app on. Mm-hmm. And she can hand a bag out the door to a delivery guy, and you're going to get candy at 8 o'clock at night when their store is closed.
100%.
So ultimately, you're supporting a local candy shop at night when you wouldn't be able to even walk down and get it.
You know what I think will be really cool, and my wife's going to listen to this and be like, what do you mean you don't do those types of things, is think back to when you were 20 years old. Well, you're a bad example. You've known your wife forever. But think back to when you're dating and you meet somebody, whatever, the next day you're trying to be sweet, thoughtful, romantic, whatever. But like ordering a candy basket and having it delivered to the like in replacement of flowers, delivering a candy basket to their work or to their home or wherever they may be. That's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. And yet it's just as simple as ordering a Big Mac meal off of Skip the Dishes.
Yeah. And also, like, if you were listening to your date while you were dating them, you might know what they actually like.
Why are you looking at me like I didn't listen? I feel like there's some shade being thrown right now.
Hold
if
on.
you would listen to your wife, you would know what she likes.
Is ordering a Big Mac for somebody not romantic?
Oh, it's super romantic.
I was going to say, 'cause that's, if I'm going to be wined and dined,
Yeah,
it's going
if
to be
you're
a Big
dating
Mac.
Matt, you hit that McDonald's before you pick him up.
I can drive. I had a question actually about like the actual app development, because I've kind of seen it, bit by bit, just being up here in the office. But like building an app like this, it's not an easy process. Like you've been working on this for weeks, if not months.
Well, so we've actually this isn't going to make me look good. This is going to make me look wasteful. But we're actually on our third app. So we built one, not knowing anything about it. This is when Y-Drive was still being built, and we built an app. It was garbage. It was, for lack of a better term, we got taken by some development team in India that ran off with our money. We got an app, but it was not going to function the way we needed it to. So then we ended up hiring another developer. This is going back to basically when Y-Drive was launching. So to give a little bit of backstory, at this point, there was some restaurants, Riley's, Hanoi House, Old Stone Hot Bellies. I talked to Lang briefly over at 180. There was a lot of interest in having this localized delivery app that would save them money, keep the money local, and support each other. And they weren't on any platform at that point. And I eventually got round 2 back. And round 2 was better than round 1, but it still wasn't fully functional. And it's because building something like that from scratch takes time. Usually you launch it and you kind of build up your clientele, you build up your restaurants, you don't try to make a splash out of the gate. Unfortunately, we're in a pandemic where every meal is being eaten at home. So we don't have the option to slow play this. It's going to be launch it and then have 3,000 users by the end of the week. So we can't afford for the software to not be perfect. And so I went back to Riley's in 180 and Hanoi House, and I said, listen, guys, I can't put this out there. It's going to make us look bad. It's going to make you guys look bad. It's going to cause headaches. Let me work on this a bit longer. And I said, in the meantime, you guys got to go to Skip or Uber Eats, because even if you're not going to make money, you got to keep your name out there. So they did, and I appreciate the fact they were waiting on us. I feel really bad for that, but eventually they got on there, started getting their food back in people's hands, because if nothing else, there's just people that needed a Mary salad or needed vermicelli delivered to their home. That's food we miss. And we actually, I was out west getting ready for the Grand Prairie launch, and I came across another platform that I'll give the developers credit. The platform works really well. They were doing it in a different way. They were doing it in a way that, as a business, I just don't agree with, and that was charging a monthly fee to the restaurants. In theory, it sounds really good that the restaurant knows what their hard cost is going to be. However, it's not fair to the smaller restaurants that might not do 20 deliveries a day. So now they're overspending. The other thing I felt like is, as a business, what's my motivation to grow the driver team, to grow the marketing, to grow the company, if I've already got your money in my bank account? At that point, if you're just paying me a monthly fee, what's my incentive to continue to be better month after month after month? So that's why we went back to the traditional route of just pay me a portion of each delivery. I'll handle the delivery, the drivers, the insurance, everything that goes into making a delivery company function. But let's do it at a much lower rate than what Skip and Uber Eats and all those guys are doing. So it was actually Joel had already been researching Plan B, because he's a methodical person. And this is an app that already existed in other countries and other places that works absolutely incredible, and it has a lot of power built into it. So things like the rewards marketplace and all of those little interesting things that you're never going to get around to doing if you're developing your own app, we're able to do. So yeah, it wasn't too hard. It was expensive. It was very expensive. It's still, to this day, going to be frustrating. I mean, now we're not the client. We're one of the clients, so our voice isn't as loud as the big guys yet. But it's going to work amazing for what Peteborough needs. It's
super powerful.
Oh,
like
100%.
The customization of everything that we can do for each driver or each restaurant is totally customizable and will fit the restaurant and the driver perfectly.
The way I compare it is if you're a contractor, you do, say, flooring. Anybody can go out and buy a GMC Sierra and buy a cap for it and build some little shelves in the back and make it functional as a work truck. Or you can just go buy a Sprinter, which is someone's already, in this case Mercedes, has already spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to develop the ultimate work vehicle. So why reinvent the wheel if somebody's already got exactly what you're after and can offer you the support you need going forward? That allows us to focus on the business side, which is what I'm trying to think of a humble way to say it, but I think what we've done with Y-Drive has been absolutely incredible in Peterborough. We've kind of gone after the idea of mastering customer service on a rideshare platform, which nobody's done yet. There's lots of rideshare options out there. Nobody's done it with the customer and the driver in mind. Nobody's truly, the marketing always says they have, but has anyone actually gone out and made sure their customers are happy, made sure their drivers are taken care of? I don't believe so in that market. And we want to bring that to food delivery as well. We want the drivers to be excited. When their phone goes off and they're getting a skip request and a Y-Drive Eats request, I want them to choose ours because not only do they know they're going to make more money, they're less likely to sit at the restaurant and wait. They're less likely to have a problem. They're less likely to have a customer be mad at them. They're going to have a better experience because we've set them up for success.
Well, and I've worked for you guys for over a year now, and I've done close to 3,000 rides.
Okay. That's part-time.
That's part-time. And I've never worked for a company that cares so much about the client that you exceed expectations when there's an issue. So one of your drivers it's not even about you or about the app. It's about the driver, which you're responsible for, but they're also responsible for themselves and how they behave. But if they get a bad review, I've had one.
What was it?
It was the headphones. The guy left his headphones.
Oh, yeah,
in
yours
my
wasn't
car.
even a bad review.
Yeah.
He left headphones, so to get our attention instead of calling in, he gave you a 1-star review, and then you panicked and called, and we're like, why did my rating drop?
No, you called me and was like, what happened in that ride?
Yeah.
And I was like, they didn't even talk. They had their headphones in.
Yep.
And he forgot his headphone case in the car, and that was it. But the point of that is that you called that customer. Every customer that doesn't give us 5 stars or doesn't give us, or gives us 1 star for whatever reason, you guys are very quick to be okay. Let's find out what the issue is and fix it.
It's easy though when your numbers are so one-sided. Like, and this isn't an exaggeration or a brag. The other day I looked it up randomly and I looked up the previous week. So this would still be last week's numbers. And we had something like 860 reviews. Of that, 856 of them were 5-star. So it's not like we're having to call 16 people a day to find out what wasn't good about their ride. What happened? What's the complaint? When you're getting 3 4 stars and one 1 star in a week out of thousands and thousands of rides, it's easy to follow up with that one and find out what the issue is. And then I'll be the first to admit, if the customer is wrong, I will tell the customer they're wrong. If the driver is wrong, I'm also going to privately call the driver and tell them they're wrong. Somebody had to be wrong, even if it's nobody did anything intentionally. There was a breakdown in communication. There was an issue. And I think that's going to go for Y-Drive Eats as well. You can have a situation where the restaurant didn't do anything wrong. The driver didn't do anything wrong. The customer didn't do anything wrong, but it still ended badly. And it's not a matter of everyone just saying it's not my fault. It's now a matter of where did the communication or the system break down to cause this to be a bad experience for the customer or the driver or the restaurant, and then fix that. And that's the way I look at it, is if I look at what's causing the problem and fix it, then I don't have to deal with that problem again.
Right.
And so it makes my life easier. If you guys keep repeating the same problem over and over again, I'm going to stop giving a crap about your feelings on it. But as long as we're assessing it and fixing it, then I can move on to the next issue and making the system better in the next way.
But as someone who looks at customer service, it was encouraging for me to see that of you. Mm-hmm. And it was an easy decision when you came to me and said, do you want to partner on this? It was like an instant yes. Yep. Because I want to deal with people who are like straight with people and who are into fixing problems, not creating bigger ones.
Yep.
right? So I want to handle our business together the same way that you handle Y Drive. I want everybody to be happy, and if they're not, we're going to deal with it together, and we're going to make it better.
That's why it's funny because I posted it yesterday, I think, in our company group chat, which has every driver, dispatchers, owners, everybody in there. And I posted a screenshot off of Reddit where somebody was like, if somebody asked about rideshare in Peterborough, and of course there was like 12 or 13 people that were like, use Y Drive, they're amazing, which I really appreciate. Like, it's very humbling when you get the community behind you. It's been an incredible experience. And there was one person that's like, the owner's an a-hole. And it's my own show. I don't know why I'm censoring it. The owner's an asshole, and don't deal with him. And I had a problem, and they were really rude and ignorant, and blah 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 blah, and everything you can imagine. And I remember reading it and being like, what do I do here? Because like I'm gonna respond. I still don't want to leave something like that just ignored. And I chose to just respond and be like, I can't win them all. And I'm like, sorry to hear that. Glad you support U-Ride, and kind of take care. Like, you know what, I know in my head, I knew it was a fake review. And the reason I knew it is because we've definitely had rides go wrong. People be late for work, people have issues, driver says the wrong thing, car's not clean, whatever, things do happen. We've done 100,000 rides, you're gonna have issues. What I knew for a fact was nobody had talked to me and got off the phone angry.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter what I have to do. If it's solve the problem, if it's throw a credit at it, I'm going to do something to make that situation better. And it's not because Y Drive needs that one independent customer. It's just because we have 12,000 of them. But it's because I don't want to be the company that thinks like that and says, well, we don't need them, so let them be mad. They can go to the competition. I'd rather take care of that situation and keep that person happy. And so I knew for a fact somebody saying that they had talked to me and I was an asshole was completely inaccurate. And either their view on it was so sideways that I was never going to be able to please them, or it was completely made up. So I called them on it. And then, of course, they came back and said something to the effect of like, oh, a proper business owner would have been like, I'm so sorry to hear that. What can I do to make it better? And then I responded and I was like, I've got 12 other people on here that are perfectly happy with the way we do business. So, all right, adios. Take care.
And you could have even, like, you can... And that's the thing. You talk to everyone who has a bad experience, or Erica does, and things are dealt with immediately.
Yep.
And that's the right way to deal with it. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride or just agree with something that you may not agree with.
Yep.
But, you know, you're making an effort to make it right. Mm-hmm. And you're right. You're never going to make everybody happy because sometimes people are having a bad day.
Yep.
But you shouldn't be the one to decide that they're having a bad day, so that's why they're freaking out. Mm-hmm. Right? You're making an effort.
Oh, I love that. I don't know if I should say this, but I love when you do the kind of kill it with kindness like mentality. I don't want to say routine, but mentality. So somebody calls in, they're screaming, kicking, blah, blah. And it could be something really silly, like you double charged me. Well, no, you took a ride on Saturday night. Your bank isn't open till Monday, so it's showing the hold and then it's showing the charge. The hold will drop off first thing Monday. And that happens a lot, and I totally understand why they look at their bank statement and think that. But when they're screaming and threatening, and like I've had people say over a hold on their, like we're talking like an $11 hold for their ride on a Saturday, and I'm like, don't worry, it'll be gone by Monday morning when your bank opens and rectifies your account. And they'll literally start throwing back like, I'm going to call my lawyer and this is fraud and blah, blah, blah. And you just sit there and I'm really sorry. I appreciate your business. Here's $12 credit back, blah, 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 blah. Like take care of whatever you have to do to make them happy at the time. And then you get the call Monday morning. I'm really sorry. I was having a bad day and I didn't mean it. And you were right. And I love those phone calls because it meant you went so far overboard to try and make them happy that now they feel guilty about how much effort you put in to make them happy once they realized you didn't really need to do anything.
Yeah. And that's going to grow your business because as much as we like the reviews and they're great, mm-hmm. those are, ego boosters for us. Mm-hmm. But when somebody tells their friend that they had a great ride on a Saturday night when they just really wanted to get home from the bar, mm-hmm. then that's what builds a good business. That's what builds Y Drive stronger because those people tell other people and it spreads just organically.
So end of year, I added it up and I spent it was 13 something. Like it was literally 13 and change $1,000 on marketing for the entire first year we were in business. And we got to 12,000 users in a city of 80,000 people. Like it blew my mind how strong word of mouth can be, that we really didn't market to customers at all. And of that marketing budget, most of it was to hire drivers to try and keep up. And I think that's the mentality that I'm going into Why Drive Eats with is, we're not going to be the best from day one. We're not going to be the most reliable from day one. We're not a $1 billion company who's been doing this for 5 years. There's going to be school tax. There's going to be learning lessons. There's going to be all of those growing pains. But I guarantee you, come day one on launch day, nobody is going to care more about the end result if you look at all three options in Peterborough. So Uber, Skip, us, and I guarantee you not one other company cares about that individual delivery working out more than ours is going to. And that was our mentality with Why Drive. It's why we've been successful. I mean, we went up, I'm not going to give them credit and say a giant like Uber or Lyft, but we went up against a competitor who is experienced, works in multiple cities, and has relatively the same service on paper. And we destroyed it. We absolutely ran the table on them in Peterborough. We continue to. They might not admit it, but the numbers speak for themselves. And it's due to the service. It's not due to being flashy. It's not due to what you can brag about or what ads you can pay for. It's due to just making your customers happy so that they tell their friends they're happy and then their friends sign up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Matt.
I have a question, actually.
I figured you would.
About the food app. And I wondered this with Uber and Uber Eats as well. Like, why not just make it the same app and it's just like a different tab to order food?
So there's a couple reasons. For us, it comes down to logistics of expanding. So we're looking at multiple cities. So by the end of 22, our plan on paper right now is that there'll be 5 operating cities for Why Drive. By the end of 23, it'll be about 8. And then from there, we'll kind of keep looking at where we're going next. Some of those cities would make sense for a local delivery app, like a localized delivery app. It wouldn't be local at that point. And some don't. So, for example, our next stop, one of my best friends and partner in Why Drive now in that province, he already has an extremely successful delivery company that is beating out Skip in their own town, which is impressive to do. I mean, there's a big market, but to beat the big guys is impressive. And so it doesn't make sense for us to take Why Drive Eats there. They've already got a monopoly in their own town of 80,000 people. It doesn't make sense for us to invest the time, money, and have egg on our face if we don't pull it off. The other option is the complete opposite, that there's markets we could go into with a good, low-cost, reliable delivery service that we aren't going to go into for rideshare. And so, again, it just doesn't make sense to pair them together. From a business standpoint, because at the end of the day, that's what this podcast is to help people kind of navigate the ins and outs of running small businesses. It also takes away the ability to keep them separate for the reason of, do I want to be involved in both a rideshare and a delivery company for the next 20 years? Or do I want Joel to buy me out 10 years from now? Do I want to be able to sell Y Drive to a conglomerate and buy an island somewhere? Like, those are all things that aren't realistic, but you still have to somewhat plan for them.
Yep.
Right now, you could have 2 successful businesses that are their own entity. They share a name on paper, like Y Drive Eats and Y Drive, but you're not stuck running both the same way. You're not stuck going into the same cities. You're not stuck having the same staff. You're able to run them the way that they each need to be run.
Also, from a technological perspective, if we combine them both together, you're going to have a half good driving app and a half good delivery app. This way, by separating them, they can both be great.
So our developer for Y Drive is incredible. It's a great team, and they have been working on a delivery app. The reason, and it's built in and fully functional, it comes back to that Sierra versus Sprinter conversation. They're new to it. And so they're, in my opinion, the best developer when it comes to a rideshare app. When it comes to what we do at Y Drive, they're the best for us. They've proven that time in and time out. Are they going to be the best delivery app? I'm not trying to be mean. They're all friends, family even call it. That's who we do our business with day in and day out. But are they going to be the best delivery app? Who knows? It's unproven. Nobody's using it.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I'd rather partner with somebody who's already the best in that industry and run with their qualifications, their experience, and the things that they've developed over the last few years.
That makes sense. And I like that you mentioned too, it's good to have them as separate entities in case, for whatever reason you have to split it up, right?
Yep.
That way you don't have to drag it out of another app and build a whole new app.
Well, it's not just that, but then your team are working. You have two teams now. If you have the same developer for both, you can't go to them and say, hey, I want to do this on Y-Drive and I want to do this on Y-Drive Eats. I need them both for next week. Mm-hmm. There's only so many hours in the day. Whereas if they're two totally separate entities, two different developers, you can not only have them each working on stuff, but then you also have the expertise crossover, that maybe there is something that happens one day where we need his expertise over here working on the other app, or the expertise of the development team from Y-Drive might have some input on how to make something work really well on Y-Drive Eats. So it's more ammunition at that point. It's just you're kind of stacking your chest a little bit more, and you just got a little bit more to play with in terms of knowledge, expertise, pulling stuff off, and then in the long run, you also have two separate companies if you ever need an exit strategy or you ever need to make a change in your life.
I like it.
Yeah.
Did you have a question for me? Because you said my name like you were going to ask me something. And I butt in.
I think sometimes I just miss you.
He's here every day.
I am in this office a lot.
Yeah. He works in, I'm going to say in the basement. You work in the basement of our
lower
building.
level.
The lower level. LL. So something I'm curious of, and you've been around for enough conversations, so don't cheat and just name the ones that we name.
Okay.
I know one of the ones that's going to end up on this list, but when you're using Uber Eats, when you're using Skip the Dishes, top 5, what do we need to have on that app from day one to make Matty Latour happy?
Well, Maple Moose is a big one. Shout out Maple Moose. That's
kind of figured that.
We were there for lunch 2 days ago. It's kind of one of my go-to spots.
Has it been that long?
I think so.
What did I have for lunch yesterday?
We went like reopening day, remember?
Yeah, so Monday.
That was a big one, yeah.
What happened to Tuesday? What did I do yesterday?
I didn't see you, so.
Oh.
Where did we eat yesterday?
You guys were.
We had breakfast yesterday.
You called me about the Mandarin.
Yeah, last night. I called them. We're going to go way off topic here.
It's totally on topic.
In case anyone can hear like the depression in my voice today, this is why. The Mandarin is not reopening for buffet until mid-month and only on Friday and Saturdays.
Ouch.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to do anything between now and then, I'm open.
Can I put Mandarin Oshawa in my 5 restaurants?
Technically, I mean, so that's something we're I don't want to say exploring. I mean, it's happening, but we're going to slowly start to open up the delivery range, and it's going to be based on kilometers. It's just going to be the cost. So we have people that actually use Y-Drive just to go to a restaurant A, B, or C in downtown Peteborough and drive their food 20 minutes, 25 minutes out of town and drop it off to them. And they pay well. They're extremely grateful, and they never complain about the quality of food, even though they realize it's been in a car for 25 minutes. And we, as Y-Drive, our drivers aren't carrying around thermal bags. Y-Drive Eats definitely will. I'll just throw that in there in case anyone didn't put 2 and 2 together there. But Y-Drive does not have thermal bags. So these people are spending $80 on food, knowing we're just going to toss it on the passenger seat, drive it out to them, charge them more than is probably fair because they're paying for a ride. Like, they're not paying for a delivery at that point, and they're still happy about it. So we started to realize that there are a lot of people in Bridge North, Ennismore, Lakefield, Buckhorn, Duro, even as far as Norwood, that want to get food delivered and just can't. So in theory, you could get something delivered an hour away. There'll be a box that'll pop up and say, we can't control food quality or temperature because of the distance. But it at least gives you the option to order it.
So I think my 5, I've been thinking about it a little bit here.
I was giving you some time.
I usually give you hand signs for 45 minutes. I'm talking, so we're at 45 minutes.
All right, awesome. So we're going to end it here, guys. We'll hear about Matt's 5 restaurants next week.
It'll be in the description below. So Maple Moose is a big one. El Caminos, I'm a big fan of.
Late night tacos.
I'm a burrito and nachos guy. I get both. And
no, so they started doing rice bowls.
Really?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's game changer.
What else would be on there? One-Eyed Jacks. I'm a big fan of One-Eyed Jacks.
Yep.
Out on Lansdowne there.
Yep.
And I know they have an Oshawa location too. I didn't know that up until a few weeks ago.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I guess they had that one first, then came to Peterborough. But I've got, if I'm looking at my Uber Eats, I guarantee those are the 3 that I probably order the most.
Okay.
And then 745 Shack would be on there, formerly the Pizza Shack.
Okay, now erase your number 5 because it's not important. It was number 5 on your list anyway.
Okay.
What is something that's not on Uber Eats or Skip the Dishes that needs to be on a delivery app? Because we're going to call that restaurant out that they're going to be Joel's next phone call.
So I don't know what's on Skip because I don't use it, but Publican House would be one for me.
They're not on Skip.
They are.
So
Are they?
They are just.
Oh, they just joined.
I think so, and
Okay.
I apologize to the owner if that isn't true, but I'm quite sure that it is.
Well, they would be my number 5 if they're not because I love Publican House. That's like my special occasion restaurant.
Here's a question. So I love having business partners because stuff gets done when you're not around. Like I love coming in and working at 2:00 in the morning, getting a bunch of stuff done.
I do not.
No, exactly. But then when I'm sleeping at 2:00 in the afternoon, Joel's working, or Erica's working, or our other business partners and Y-Drive are working. So I enjoy business partners and the fact that things are always getting done, whether it's you doing it or someone else. It's just more productive. However, when it comes to leveraging your company to get personal gain, it becomes a bit of a problem because now you're leveraging somebody else. So, for example, I wanted a deal from a local business, and so I made a playful offer to them that their employees don't pay for rides anymore. And one of my business partners commented that wasn't exactly fair, but it was a great deal for me. I want to know, are we discounting? So for anyone that has not read it, Y-Drive is the proud sponsor, an excited sponsor of the ECFC or Electric City Football Club beer garden. One of the first round of stores, restaurants that we're putting on are the local breweries. Now, I'm not going to speak out of pocket. I don't know who's signed the dotted line yet. I know that Bob Cajun has. They've been announced as one of the beer sponsors. Are they getting a discount on delivery as long as there is a cold chest of beer in our box every Sunday at the soccer game?
I don't know why you looked at me. I'm probably the least qualified to answer.
Joel's giving me a look like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say no on this.
Well, obviously, I think that would be a fantastic deal.
Yeah.
For those who drink beer.
Well, fine. We'll get something else. Who makes wine around here?
Don't look at me. I lived in Niagara. They make all the wine.
Joel can just
including
take
that giant wine bottle behind Joel there.
He likes wine so much, he's literally cozying up with a 5-liter bottle of it during the podcast.
You just don't see the straw that's off camera.
Exactly. It's a backpack style in your backpack. Yeah, Publican House is a good one though. Whether it's on Skip now or not, that's a great example of a local restaurant that deserves to make margin on their food. People deserve to be able to order it and eat it at home. Yeah, no, that's a great example.
Or even what's the one in East City? I'm so bad with names.
The Ale House.
Ale House, yeah. Are they on either?
Ashburn.
Delivery?
I don't know if they're on either, but they are on my list of people to contact. The one that I am most excited about, and you know this already.
I didn't even ask it yet. Go ahead.
Oh, St. Verona's.
Yeah.
Oh, right downtown there, yeah.
That's cheating. So Joel didn't realize he was driving the owner the other day. And he's just going on about this new app, this Y-Drive Eats. It's going to be incredible. And the guy's like, cool, call me, and hands him a card, and it's the owner of St. Verona's.
So are you guys just like dropping it to every like Y-Drive customer?
I am.
You
Yes.
are? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I probably shouldn't be because it's like a little bit of a, secret at this.
I mean, it's got
those
500 likes on Facebook last time I looked.
Well, we cheated. It was Peteborough Connect before, right? PTBO
Yeah.
Connect.
So they used to be. So the original name was what this podcast turned into.
Correct. Yeah.
And then you didn't want to name them the same thing.
Y-Drive,
which is fair.
Y-Drive Eats just has a good ring to it. People already know what it does.
I think was it you yesterday or Monday that said why don't we just call it Y Cook?
Y Cook.
That was my 6-year-old daughter's.
Y Cook.
You got to hire her in the marketing department.
I know.
That's
I
your
know. It's like
assistant.
we were in the car when she said it. Are you going to work for Y Cook tonight? And I'm like, that should have been the name. 6-year-old.
It to me, and I realize this is a little bit of an oxymoron because you still cook chef's plates and HelloFresh and all that, but to me it reminds me more of something like that.
Like a box.
Cook makes me think of my kitchen at home.
Right.
Well, it makes me think of Erica in my kitchen at home. That's not a dig. I have not cooked anything in that room I tried to make a chef's plate and I destroyed it. It was bad. It got thrown out.
There's instructions on how to do every part of it.
100%.
Rob's the guy that's like, I don't want to try to clean this. I'll just mess it up even more.
I'm the guy that when I tried to cook that chicken that night from a chef's plate for Erica's birthday, and I butchered it so bad that it literally destroyed a frying pan. I'm the guy that just throws the frying pan. Yeah, throws the frying pan out and is like, we'll just get another set tomorrow. Like I don't want to deal with that.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's awful.
I don't know what my restaurant is that I need to see on there. I know what I'd love to be able to order every once in a while to the house, but I don't know if it's a possibility. I feel like it's worth a conversation. And if they're listening, which I doubt it because nobody is, I want to see a City Cafe, just breakfast. Just put 3 options on there. Just the big breakfast, like the bacon, sausage, ham, and then maybe an omelet, and that's about it. Just get if you could get those home fries at home. Oh, they're called home fries. Well, and I can't eat them at home.
There are only a handful of restaurants that I was truly sad and missed when the pandemic was in deep, right? Rare being one of them.
Yep.
I love everything that they make.
Yep.
I've never had a bad meal there. Public and
Do you go there often?
I go there enough.
Okay, because our former driver works there.
Christine.
Yeah.
Christina.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never met her.
I've only had Rare once. It was after Erica's surgery for her kidney stones. I was like, it'll cheer her up when she just had surgery for kidney stones, chewing on a steak. And so I went and got a couple steak dinners, and yeah, it was good. Like, I'm a big fan of pretty much every steakhouse. You can't really do a good quality steak wrong, but Rare does a really good job. That'd be a good delivery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they on an app at all?
I don't know that. Like I don't.
Not on Uber Eats. I know that much.
I feel like that's a quality control issue. Like, I feel like they're going to fall in line with when I originally talked to some of the restaurants a couple years back. When you're selling a steak meal for $70, $80, you got to know the quality of what's showing up. Like, you can't afford for a $69 meal to be tipped on its side in the Uber driver's bag.
But during the pandemic, they've diversified their menu quite a bit.
Yep.
So they've added their fried chicken is so good. Like you can see the passion.
Why did we eat before doing this?
I'm still hungry. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But like that.
Message Gertie's. Tell them we're on our way for a donaire.
but that they've gone to stuff that travels better.
Yep.
Also, they have some like really killer frozen meals. Mm-hmm. Like when we had the cottage for our anniversary last year, it was number 16, but number 15 was spent in the deep pandemic with my children, which is not romantic at all. No offense to them.
Yep.
But we grabbed a couple of their freezer meals and took them to the cottage, and they're fantastic.
You know what else was really good for that? And it's not something we're obviously going to deliver, but the restaurant next to the bridge in Hastings is really good for takeaway meals. Like, it's worth the drive out there. They've got some phenomenal boxes of stuff you just throw in the oven. I haven't experienced Rare more than just that one takeaway night. I should.
And if we can get them on the app,
then I will.
Then we will.
I feel like we have to daily test the app. So if we're gonna,
it's just his excuse to order food.
Yeah. It is 100%. Don't worry, it's in the budget.
That's not nearly as bad as when I was ordering Skip the Dishes twice a day, just so I could hand a recruitment business card to the driver at the door. I would glance out the window and I'd be like, "That looks like a 2016 Caravan." Yeah, he looks over 25. And I get to the door, I'd be like, "Thanks, bud. Here, take this." And I didn't want to have like a long conversation with them because that's kind of creepy. Like, they got a job to do, they're making money. But I'd hand them the card with like a QR code on it, and then our information on the other side so that they could apply for a job.
Well, and it's no different than me telling some of our restaurant friends
Yep.
to hand our cards to drivers that they like.
Yes, that's the key, that they like, because there is a very strong opinion of delivery drivers from restaurant owners.
Absolutely, there is.
And if they could start not picking and choosing, like you're not picking your driver, but I know when you started playing around with the development side of the app and you realized we could make it so that certain restaurants, like restaurants could blacklist certain drivers and certain drivers could blacklist certain restaurants. We had a conversation about this, I don't know if it was earlier today, yesterday. I don't believe that just because one restaurant doesn't like one driver, it makes them a bad driver. It could just be that there was something that happened or they just butted heads or they didn't get along. That driver could be great with all the other restaurants, just not that one. But the ability for restaurants to kind of represent, I'm wondering, and this is kind of thinking out loud, luckily it's at the end so we could just scratch it right off, but I'm wondering if there's even something where when we start to get some very upper echelon drivers, so like the guys that really care, they show up wearing a branded golf shirt and they've got a nice clean bag, like the ones that are the epitome of what we want to be for service, if they can be dedicated to restaurants that are willing to maybe take in a little bit of an extra hit, or customers that are willing to pay a little bit higher delivery fee and get that little bit of extra service.
Well, like the green service from Uber,
Yeah.
where they make you pay 3 times more, but you get to be in an electric vehicle.
Well, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound cool.
Well, yeah. Well, I have an electric
All
car,
right,
and I don't.
scratch the idea. Every driver needs to meet our level of quality.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
And that's it, though, right? Like, if we're watching our drivers and paying attention to our restaurants,
Yep.
all of them will be that way.
Now, what about, like, I don't know, maybe this is a thing, I have no idea, but you can obviously rate your delivery driver when you get your meal. Can you do something like that for restaurants? When a driver comes to pick it up, they can rate the driver?
I think it's just an easier conversation to have. Like, I would expect, just because he's been so prevalent in the conversations, I'll use Jim as an example. If Jim is hearing from his front staff that John is a horrible, horrible driver, like he's just, this guy comes in, he's impatient, he's a dick, he's rushing us, he doesn't bring his bag in. Yeah, whatever the case is, I expect Jim to pick up the phone and be like, hey, this John guy, don't send him back. And then it's up to us to investigate. And then maybe I'll pick up the phone and call Susan and be like, hey, Susan, you ever got John as your delivery guy? And she'll be like, yeah, he's all right. Okay, now I know there's a problem, because she's not willing to say it, but there's a problem. If I call her and she's like, yeah, that guy's awesome. Like, good guy. I wish they could all be like that. Then we just know it's a Riley's and John issue. It's
You
not
can kind of narrow it down.
Yeah, it's not a
Well, and
driver issue.
It may be just a personality clash,
Yeah.
right? Like, not everyone gets along with everyone.
Yep.
Like, I try and treat all of my riders the same way when I'm driving for you guys for Y Drive, but sometimes people don't want to talk. So I'll make conversation and read the response and know, okay, this person has maybe had a hard day or is just tired, and they don't want to talk. They want to look at their cell phone for 15 minutes while I drive them somewhere.
There's other reasons to use it, though. I didn't grow up in Peteborough as a teenager, so I haven't worked at a lot of like restaurants and that in my younger days here. But people don't want to go back into their old workplace if they got fired when they were 19. People don't want to go into a restaurant where their ex-girlfriend is the hostess. So, I mean, it can be used in that direction as well, just kind of a way to separate them.
Yeah, and like there's lots of points to that, right? So, and it might just be a conversation that we have to have with the delivery driver.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we've had a couple comments, don't name restaurants, but like you need to have a smile on your face, not wear sweatpants. Like, I'm picking on sweatpants.
You're really picking on sweatpants now.
Yeah, I know. I love
What
them.
are you wearing, Matt?
Oh, hello.
Matt's got on jeans.
I've got on jeans and my orange sweater, trademark.
Well, and
He's not picking on sweaters.
no, and you know what? It's funny about that is that I love sweatpants, but not in a professional manner. I'm not going to wear them to work. Like,
I've done
it. Well, and like my son Jack asked me this morning. He's like, "Well, how come you don't wear sweatpants to work? Mom wears stretchy pants to work." And I'm like,
Shots fired.
Yeah. She won't listen to this anyways. And it's because I don't feel professional in sweatpants.
No.
Like, no knock to anyone who feels professional in sweatpants, but I don't feel like I need to be in the right mind frame to put in a good day's work,
Yep.
and sweatpants don't do it for me.
I've noticed since I started, so I started coming in at 5 o'clock in the morning to the office, not because I'm an early riser, not because I'm a workaholic. In fact, I'm the complete opposite of both of those things. I did it because Erica was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to take over dispatch from our nighttime dispatch. And so I figured, you know what? I've got other stuff I can be doing. I'm going to go into the office at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll take over at 6 o'clock, and then I can get other stuff done while I'm dispatching. And what I noticed is my day starts off better. And it's not picking on my son or my wife or traffic or anything else. But when you wake up in the morning, you have extra time to have a nice, longer shower. You have the bathroom to yourself. Like, we have an ensuite, but I still have my wife to share it with. When you're the first one in, the floor is not yet damp. Your towel's hung up. You get to go and get dressed on your own. Everything's quiet. I don't even let the dogs out in the morning because they're not used to getting up at 5 o'clock. She usually lets them out around 7. And then I hop in the truck, and as long as I remember to remote start it, it's nice and warm, get to turn on my own music, get to drive into the office, unlock the front door of the mall, walk in, go up, don't see a single person. I'm in the unit. I'm in the office, fire everything up, turn on the lights. I get 2 or 3 hours worth of work done before I speak to a person. And for anyone that doesn't like people, that's a good start to your day. Like, I'm so social. But in reality, I don't like. I want to be. I'm an introvert, social person. Like, right. I love socializing, but I actually don't like being around people. I like to be in just a quiet room, playing a video game, listening to music, doing work, whatever I can be doing. And the rhythm of starting a day and feeling good about yourself, fresh clothes, fresh shower, good headspace, has made so much difference in a couple weeks that, anything like going to the closet and being like, I don't have any clean pants, can completely throw off my morning and ruin my day, because then you're just not in that headspace anymore. Yeah.
And at my past jobs, I've always started early, because you're right. When you have nobody asking you questions, and like, I worked in IT, so my job was fixing people's problems. So hearing about their problems on the phone and then going and fixing them. Yep. But if I could go in a couple of hours early just to do my busy work, then I felt so much more productive the rest of the day.
Yep.
And it made a world of difference.
The other thing I've learned, because you've said this, is if you stay an hour past everybody else or show up an hour earlier than everybody else, everybody assumes you work nonstop.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to, if you're here from 9 till 4 or 9 till 3 because you've got your kids to pick up, I don't have to work till 12 at night. I can be out of here at 4 o'clock.
Right.
But it's still but if I was here when you got here and I was here when you left, you still come to me and you're like, do you ever go home and sleep? Well, yeah, actually, I got here an hour before you and I left an hour after you.
Well, but is it not the George Costanza effect, though? Like, when he left his car at the Yankee Stadium and they just assumed that he was always there?
Oh, I didn't watch a lot of Seinfeld.
Oh. No, I'm too young.
Oh, man.
Really? No, it's not that I'm and you know what? I probably would really enjoy it because
it's on Netflix.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up here. I'm going to go home and I'm going to watch it on Netflix. That was the best segue to cut the mics I've ever heard. Thank you so much, Joel, for stopping in. I feel guilty that we used it as just a complete press run for what we're doing next. But honestly, we've talked to people that have been in business for a year, who've been in business for 2 years. And this is something that, as much as I've been around this for a few years now, I've built a few businesses. This is brand new to you, and it's actually been pretty exciting and almost, I don't want to say inspiring. It's been motivational to watch you going through all the first steps and the excitement you get. Today you ordered your first set of business cards for your own business. Like, those things are exciting to watch, and they actually motivate existing business owners because it reminds us what it was like to start and how fun it was at the beginning. Don't worry, it won't be like that forever. But thank you so much for coming in and talking about it. I'm sure we'll have you back on when things hit the ground and we're off and running. Thanks, Matt, as always, for tuning in.
Tuning in. I have to.
for listening.
He's got the headphones on. He has to listen.
When we say we have 3 listeners, I am usually referring to one other person, Joel and Matt. And so today we have 1 listener. But yeah, thank you again for doing this. And eventually I'm going to ask you what your favorite show is, because so far you've got to learn about vehicle wraps.
Yep.
You've got to talk about wonderful Vietnamese food.
Yep.
You've got to talk to a guy who moves endangered animals around not just the country, but across multiple countries. You learned how whales are moved.
I learned that a long time
ago. Right,
ago.
you just brought it up. Yeah. And then today, I think we're gonna change Matt's life when we launch Wide Drive Eats.
Listen, I've learned about food, animals, and cars. Like I'm fine. I'm good.
And we are gonna use cars to go and get food made from animals and deliver it to you.
Love it.
Yep.
How it should be.
Done. That's the business model. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to everyone listening, and we will see you again next week.